Hello, hello.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? It's Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
I'm gonna wait just a minute and then we'll get started. Always takes people a couple minutes to get on.
Yes.
So I'm just putting a hello in the chat box here. That's where you can pop in all your questions. So I want to make sure you see that. So if you want to ask any questions during the call, let's do that via the chat box, and I will try to get to as many as I can. Can you see your chat? Everyone see the chat box? All right, yeah, thank you. And I just stuck my, my website in there as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm sure people are gonna pop on at different times, but I'm very timely. And this is going to be a lot of information really, really fast in a short period of time. I know many of you are probably on lunch break or in the middle of your workday, so I want to make sure that I respect and make most of your time. And again, please feel free to use that chat box to ask any questions. And if you're somewhere where there could be background noise, it's probably a good idea to just go ahead and mute your sound right now. That's so nice for everyone else. And we'll do most of the questions by chat, but you can always unmute if you want to, ask me something using your voice. All right, so hello. If you don't know who I am, my name is Lara Land. I am a life and career coach. I deal especially with people going through transitions or stuck in those same sort of revolving cycles, wanting to change but not knowing how. I work specifically with people trying to leave corporate life and start their own businesses or even their side projects. I love to work with entrepreneurs and creative types. I'm also a yoga teacher. I own a yoga studio called Land Yoga in Harlem. It's almost 8 years old. And I run a nonprofit called 3.5 Acres Yoga, which brings yoga to underserved populations in Upper Manhattan. I also produce a yoga festival called Soulfest NYC, devoted to diversity and wellness. That's coming July 13th. And I have a manifestation guidebook out called My Bliss Book. So doing a couple things, and that's what I'm here to share with you about achieving all your goals step by step, one by one. And I'm known as a goal crusher, so I love to help people crush their goals as well. So this talk is going to be about your resolutions, your goals, maybe some that you made in the beginning of January. Now it's February 1st, and I thought, let's check in and see where we are with all that. So many of you go into that January 1st time very excited about new goals, new dreams, gonna do it, this year's the year. And studies show that 80% have dropped their goals by this time, by February. So I wanna help you be part of that 20 that keep your goals all year long. So, and chime in on the box if you can relate to that. You start out the year with lots of passion and you're feeling good and you're like, I'm doing it, I'm making change. And then life happens and maybe it doesn't go that way, right? Yeah. So we can all relate to that. So what's happening, right? We have the best intentions. And I know you do, especially if you're here, you made that time to get on the call, like you're trying, right? You have all the best intentions, you really mean to do it, but yet something keeps stopping us. So I'm going to talk about the 5 mistakes that you might be making when you're setting up your resolutions and the 5 things that you can do to be more successful at them this year. Okay, sound good? So a lot of information. Hope you have somewhere to take a little bit of notes. So your 5 mistakes. So first mistake is not understanding or not having a big enough why. Okay, and I love that. So Stephanie said she geared up so that her new year starts today, and I should have said that, so thank you for chiming in. This idea that you have to start New Year on January 1st is totally absurd. And I should add it as the 6th mistake that people make, that they feel like, okay, if they didn't start on the 1st or they started on the 1st and they messed up by February 1st, that, oh, I just have to wait till next year. We never have to wait till next year. We never even have to wait till tomorrow. We can always start again in any moment. And that's the thing to train ourselves, not to get into the mindset of, I missed my chance. Always the mindset of, I messed up, I can start again today and today and today. So great job, Stephanie. So the first mistake most of you are probably making is not understanding why you chose a certain goal, why you chose a certain resolution. And it's really, really important to understand your why, right? And to ask yourself if it's something you really want, or if it's possibly something that you think that you should want, right? So let's take, for example, losing weight, becoming thinner, right? A lot of people have that as their New Year resolution. So is it because I really, really want to lose weight, or is it because, you know, from society, I feel I should be thinner, I feel like this should be my goal, everyone's doing it, that kind of thing. So the first thing is to get really honest about if it's something that you really want. If even a little bit inside, it's not what you really, really want, like you don't care, like you like your size, or maybe you don't even really want to be thin, then your subconscious is going to tell you not to move in alignment with that goal. So you have to make sure that your goals are really yours and you really understand why you want them, right? Let's say it is. Let's say like losing weight this year is a goal for you, right? Just knowing that isn't enough. Why? Understand why. Is it that I want to have more energy this year? I can't do things with my kids like I used to because I'm feeling heavy. I'm feeling like not my full energy, right? Is it because I want more confidence this year? And I feel like that's part of my vision as a new, more confident person. Is it because I want to have better health statistics? And what are those? That making sense? You can let me know with a little like, yeah, in the chat. So understanding your why, your motivation is going to make a really, really big difference, right? Because if the thing is to move your energy level from like a 3 to a 10, then that's different from just losing weight. Then you're focusing on, okay, I'm eating like healthy foods that are giving me long-lasting energy, because my focus is to have more energy for my life, more energy for my kids. I'm not eating sugar foods, not necessarily 100% to lose weight, but because I know I'm going to have that crash. And my value is having more energy for the people and the things in my life. So we want to look at that why, okay? So make sure you're writing that down, that the why is truly yours, and that the why, that you're understanding the deep nature of your why. It's not just the losing weight. It's not just the success in career, but it's deeper than that. And the next is maybe your why isn't big enough, okay? This is also part of 1. The first mistake you might be having, not getting into that why. So your why might not be on fire enough, right? That desire to change is really hard. So you need a really strong desire to do it, right? So a little like desire to change, it's not going to help you when you have those doubts, when you're feeling tired. You're going to have to be able to tap into something really big. So if your why is not big enough, if your desire is not big enough, you have 2 options. One is to reassess. Maybe this isn't your big goal. Maybe you should choose a bigger goal for this year that has more importance to you. Or you got to light the fire under your why, right? And so how do we light that fire, right? So there's a couple ways to do that. One way one very effective way is through visualization. So really seeing yourself and journaling yourself when you've completed that goal. So seeing yourself 20 pounds thinner with your full energy and your full confidence, and writing all the things that you're doing and how great it is and all the feelings, the way you're going to feel, and embodying that. The other way to light the fire is by tapping into the feelings of what's going to happen if you don't change. So some people are more motivated by a positive vision, and some people are more motivated by getting real about what's going to be the situation if I don't make change in my life, and where am I headed, right, if I don't make a change. And that can be very motivating as well. And sometimes we need a combination of both. So that's the first thing. So whatever your goals or resolutions were for this year or are coming up, make sure that you're spending that time and going into that why. Number 2, the second mistake that you may be making when you're setting up your resolutions is not thinking about what you're willing to give up from your old life, step into your new one. So yeah, making change is not just like conjuring a new thing, right? There's always something that we let go of before we have something new, right? And it's time to get honest with ourselves about what we're willing to say goodbye to in order to bring in something new, right? So we can't have it all the time. We can have it all, but at different times, and we can't have everything all at the same time. So, a lot of people don't want to talk about that. A lot of coaches don't want to talk about that when they're talking about manifest your life and you can change, right? They don't want to get real about telling you that, no, it's work. You have to let something go, right? You might have to let something go in order for something new. So you have to think about in advance what you're willing to give up from your past life in order to have something new in your life. And I'm going to talk a little more about that and understanding why that component is so important, and why, past life patterns they have helped us, but why it's time to say goodbye to them for something new. So just keep that in your mind, and I'm going to revisit that a little later when we talk about the 5 things you should be doing. The next thing, the third thing that might be getting in the way of your resolutions is you're making a little bit too big promise to yourself to move too fast, right? So again, everyone wants to tell you, like, dream big, live big, right? Make that big change this year. And no one wants to talk about the reality of change, which is that it's slow, right? So if you're in a pattern that it took you 30, 40 years to get into, then it's not going to change in 3 or 4 hours or 3 or 4 days. But it can change. It can change by making slow steps in the right direction, and really reinforcing those positive steps and acknowledging when we get off step and moving right back into those steps that are helping. So don't think big, but break it down small. Okay. So for instance, I'm working with one client who wants to change her negative thought patterns. That's like a huge thing to do, right? She's in her late 20s. That's 20 something years of thinking in a certain way. You're not going to just change that in one day, but you can decide, okay, I'm going to start to notice right away when I go into a negative loop in my mind. So I'm going to try to become aware once a day. You're not going to catch it every time, right? But once a day, I'm going to try to become aware and just be aware that I'm doing it, right? That could be your goal for the first week, 2 weeks, right? So the goal isn't, I'm going to change my thinking patterns, and then when you have a negative thought, January 2nd, you're mad at yourself, right? Instead, the goal is, okay, week 1 and 2, I'm just going to be aware. And then maybe week 3, I'm going to say, okay, once a day or twice a week, small, I'm going to replace my negative thought pattern with a more positive, less limiting thought pattern. I'm just going to, just once during the week, I'm going to try to flip it and try to feed myself something different, right? And so these are small and steady steps. And each time I do it, I'm going to get really excited. And I know it's not every time. And so I'm not going to get mad at myself when I have a negative thought and think, oh, this isn't working. I'm just going to make small steps, keep acknowledging that they're happening. And once those are firmly rooted, then I'm going to add the next one. So it's having a real plan and working slowly, really slowly. And the fourth thing that you might be making a mistake with your goal setting is that you're setting actions instead of goals. Okay, so I'll go back to like the gym thing, the losing weight thing. So some of you are making resolutions that are actions, not goals. An action would be like getting to the gym 3 times this week. Okay, the goal is back to the why: my health, my freedom, my confidence, my energy. So you might be forcing yourself to do some actions that you don't even want to do, right? Some people like hate the gym. Again, like societal thing, like, oh, I think I should go. But if you realize what your motivation is, if it's having more energy, then you might be able to replace that by going to a dance class, going outside for a walk, changing your food so it's food that gives you more energy, and so on and so forth. So if you key in to what is a goal, right? Goal is like, okay, I want to increase my daily energy from like a 3 to like a 7 in the next 6 months. And I'm going to assess that by knowing that, oh, if I can play for 30 minutes with my kids outside without getting tired. I noticed that, oh, like I have more focus. Focus comes from having good energy when I'm with my partner. So all those kind of things. You might not necessarily need to go to the gym 3 times a week, but then you can look at, oh, what are some other things I can do to increase my energy? If the weight loss is really connected to building confidence, then you can start to say to yourself, okay, wow, that getting to the gym 3 times a week, that wasn't really exactly in alignment with my true goal, which was having more confidence. Part of that is having a wellness routine. Part of that is doing what I say I'm going to do. A part of that is, my body language. So instead of just making actions, go back and think if that's really a goal. So hitting the gym 3 times a week or meditating daily, those are actions that can help you towards your goals. So if your goal is to be lower stress this year, meditation can help you towards your goal. But meditation in itself, 3 or 5 days a week, is not the goal. Okay? So just understanding the difference between a goal and an action plan. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, good. I see some nods. I always like to know that I'm talking to people and they're hearing me. I hope it makes sense. And if it doesn't, just use the chat box. Ask me any questions because I'm throwing a ton of information at you really, really fast. The 5th mistake that you might be making when you're setting up your resolutions is not having that plan for when something goes wrong, right? So again, like we're sometimes listening to a really idealized idea about goals and resolutions, that it's like we're going to do it and we stick to it and it's so strict. And of course, then when something happens, we feel bad about ourselves. And that's an awful cycle, right? Things are going to happen. You're going to get tired. Your life is going to throw you something that you weren't expecting, right? We know this happens. Work is going to get stressful. We're going to forget sometimes, what we were doing, what the plan was. There are going to be moments of lack of motivation. So instead of pretending that those aren't going to come, think about them in advance. As you're setting up your goals, as you start your new year today with me, or you're going back and reassessing, be honest. Let's have more honesty. Let's write down, okay, here's my plan, here's my goal, here's my why, here's my plan of how I'm going to do it, here's how slowly I'm going to do it, and here's what I'm going to do when some of these likely hindrances come up, right? And they can be very practical things like, what always happens is once the school year starts getting going, I always get really busy and this happens. So what am I going to plan in advance? The more you can plan in advance for those things happening and have a plan, wow, you're going to see that you're not going to have those big setbacks because you already have a plan in motion, right? So the plan could be like, I know that as much as I say I'm going to get to the gym, like come March, it's a really busy time for my family and it doesn't happen. But maybe, okay, this year I'm going to set up for a babysitter to come once a week. Just giving like a very broad example. But know what your hiccups are. We all know what our sort of downfalls are. We know the things that get in the way. So be honest about them and try to set yourself up with a plan. Your plan could be like, that you've written down and drawn out and visualized in this book. Many of you hopefully have my Bliss book, which is really a way of daily writing down your why. Yes! So every day it asks you, how are your actions connected to your bigger why? So that you're going to look at that, you're going to remind yourself, you're going to draw it, that you have some things in motion for when life doesn't go as 100% planned. Okay? So those are the 5 mistakes that you might be making. Not understanding your why, or having a why that's not strong enough, or that's tied into societal desires for you instead of being to your truth. Until you get past that, none of the goals are going to come through. Not recognizing what you need to let go of from your old life in order to step into a new life, not being honest about that. Making your promises to yourself a little too big and a little too fast instead of doing the slow and steady work that really results in change. Making action plans but not goals. So make sure your goals are goals, that they're not just actions. And not planning for setbacks. Okay, those are your 5 mistakes. Oh, Stephanie's intimidated by her Bliss book. Okay. We can talk a little more at the end about any questions. And what that intimidation is. Sometimes it's scary to write or decide that you're going to move forward with one specific goal, because we fear that means that we're dropping other possibilities from our life. And the truth is, and I don't know if this is the reason that you wrote that, but I'll throw this in, unless we make a plan, we're not going anywhere, right? And so you saw, those of you who were here at the beginning of my talk, that I have about 7 different careers. I have about 7 different careers. I have a yoga studio. I run a nonprofit. I do motivational speaking. I coach corporate and I coach individuals. I write. I love to write. I have a book out, the Bliss book. So you can do many things. But they have to be under one sort of umbrella, one goal, and you can't do everything at once. So the sooner that you pinpoint your one thing and actually put other things down for a while, you'll actually be able to accomplish more in the future. But a lot of people are afraid to make a choice. Glad to hear that someone was saying they were afraid to start, but once they started writing in their Bliss book, it started flowing. So I'm glad to hear that. And sometimes that's often the biggest thing, is just getting started with anything. Like just getting started is the hardest thing. And once we start, it's like that one step starts everything flowing. I know that's the truth for me, for making change. I'm a Taurus, so it's in my blood to be stuck. But once I make that one small action, it seems to like open up this rolling ball of change. So I'm jam-packing it in. Talk to you about 5 things. So those are 5 things to watch out not to do. I'm going to give you 5 things to start implementing. They will pretty closely correspond to the no-nos. And the first one has to do with understanding your values. This is really a big one, and value is something people throw around all the time. You can go on online and download like a list of like 40, 50 values. There's so many, you can even add your own. And I'm going to ask you to do a values exercise. If you have the Bliss book, I think we have it in there. Every other week, you get an email from me, and one of them is a values exercise. And understanding your values is crucial, and living by your values is crucial. So when you first start to look at all the values and you say, okay, I'm going to circle like 10 to 15, and then I'm going to ask you to get it down to 1 or 2. And I know that's hard for some of you, but one, you'll find if you really start thinking about it that you can kind of host the other ones under your top 1 or 2. It's important for you to know what your number 1, number 2 values are. They're really the top things that are important to you in life. And someone wrote on my Instagram, I write a lot about, I'll write it here, Lara Land Yoga. You're probably there. if you're here. Someone wrote like, oh, this manifestation talk, but what about like being a good person? And oh my gosh, I talk so much about giving back, and actually how all this work has to ultimately, the why has to be that the personal betterment is tied into communal betterment and world betterment. So it's always with that bigger picture. But to get even more specific, if you know what your values are, and you are always asking yourself if your actions are in alignment with your values, that's really like living as a good person, right? So how often do we say something like, my value is truthfulness, but yet we find ourselves telling a white lie, right? So once you define that for yourself in that really strong way, you can really be tough on yourself to live by those values. And you can make sure that your goals are under those values. I'm just going to mute. Yeah. Kelsey, sorry, I just muted you because we're getting some background noise. Just unmute if you want to join in and ask a question, or everyone, as you're doing in the chat box, is great. So understanding your values is going to help you with that why. So it corresponds to the first one, and it's going to help you to live a really, really authentic and meaningful life. And it's going to help you also to say no to really great opportunities that aren't for you. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. That could be a whole nother conversation. But part of staying on track is knowing how to say no to things that even sound really good. That could be potentially taking you away from your big goal. So you might get an opportunity, but you see it's not in alignment with your values. Even though it seems like a great opportunity, that's a sign that it's not the opportunity that you're going to take. And that's going to help you stay on track. Trying to say yes to too many things is going to definitely get you off track. So try to keep 1-2 values, one big why, and just focus on one thing to start. I promise you, you will get to the other things of importance later, or you'll find out that they're not that important. Now, going back to, this corresponds to not knowing, what you want to get rid of from your old life, knowing what you're willing to give up from your old life. Okay? So I just want to explain really briefly sort of how our systems work. Our brain, our whole system is here to protect us, to help us survive and navigate this really tricky world, right? And so I'll go back to the example of a client. She wants to be in a relationship. She ultimately wants to find a partner and potentially a marriage, but she cancels every date that she has. She tries to get the guy to cancel. So she's pushing away the thing that she claims to want so dearly, right? So what is this, right? So in her life leading up to now, she's had a lot of disappointments from people. And this habit of pushing away, of not showing up for a date, it's been a great protection to her, right? To keep in control of situations, to not get hurt, to not let people in. And we all have those kind of protections and patterns, right? Limiting beliefs, but those things have helped us. So a big mistake that we often make is to say I want to change that. It's so bad. I don't know why I do that. The first thing is to understand the payoff that we're getting from some of these actions, right? So some of the ways that we're self-sabotaging, we've had some payoff from them. And it's good to say thank you. You helped me. There was a time that I really couldn't be close to people, and this habit of pushing them away really saved me from some deep hurts. But I'm ready now. I'm ready to invite people into my life. I'm ready to invite a relationship into my life. So I'm going to thank you, system, pattern, way of being, for helping me when I needed you. But I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go. So I'm letting go something that's helped me. And I'm taking a risk, right? I can get hurt from opening myself up to someone else. But I'm recognizing that staying where I am is not leading to my goals. So I have to get rid of this old system. Does that make sense? This is some deep work. So this is what I do when I coach people. Some of you may want to work. I work sometimes weekly, bi-weekly, depending on the person's situation. on coaching through like some of these, recognizing these old systems, how they're getting in your way, and how to, thank them and move on. Okay. Have to move quickly because we're on a short time frame here. I want you to develop your slow strategy. I want you to write it down very, very slowly how you're going to change. Once a week, small change. Next week, little bit smaller, building slowly by slowly. Okay? That's your next thing to do to keep your resolutions this year. And I want you to plan for your setbacks. We talked a little bit about this. Plan for your setbacks. Plan for what can get in the way. Write that down. Know what your big setbacks are. And finally, I want you to acknowledge your successes. And so this comes to like a little child. Like you're like, yay, you pooped on the toilet, right? You always see how you are with a little child. This is how you want to be with yourself when you're working on change. You want to be really, really acknowledging the tiniest of steps and reinforcing that. Like, great job. I noticed one negative thought this week. Awesome. That's good. And really give yourself a lot of accolades for that, because that is wonderful. Remember that some of these patterns and things that you want to change have been in your system for a really long time. So every small step is very, very exciting. And your body, your subconscious, your mind is going to react to that. It's going to want to, it wants you to congratulate it more, just like a mom to a child. Like the child's going to like, oh, I'm going to poop on the potty again, right? So that's what your inner self, your inner child wants. It just wants that love. It wants that like positive reinforcement, not that negative. So every time that you make a step in the right direction, you're going to be like, I am doing this. Really acknowledge it. Take even just a couple seconds to say, I'm doing this. I'm doing it. I'm stepping in the right direction. And fuel that that vision, fuel that happiness, and that will keep it alive and keep you moving in that direction. As opposed to when you have a small setback where you're just going to go, oh, that was just a small setback. That's just part of life and the process. And I'm just going to do something in the direction of my goal today. Okay? So really forgiving and brushing off mistakes very, very quickly, and giving yourself tons of accolades for any small movement in the right direction. So it's probably the opposite of the way that you've been taught, which is like yelling at yourself when you do something wrong. So I want you to flip that, and you're going to see this one thing in itself is going to make all the difference. So those were your do's and don'ts for goal setting. A lot of information, short time. Again, it's a process. That's why, I recommend, if you're up for it, reach out to me. I can do an initial consultation with you. The first one is free. After that, we can work together step by step on week by week. Okay, what's happened? How's that? Why is that happening? Sometimes it's in your body. Sometimes it's a limiting belief system that you don't see. Sometimes it's a fear that's blocking you that you haven't identified. So talking to someone can help. My Bliss book can definitely help. I have about 5 minutes if anyone wants to ask some clarifying questions, share anything. Sometimes it takes a minute to break out of the shyness, so I'll give you just a minute to think about it. And while some of you are typing or thinking, I just wanted to say, if you found this helpful, it's free. I'm 9 months pregnant. I don't know if many of you know that. If you're following me on IG, you do. So I am 9 months pregnant, and I wanted to share this with you for free. I really enjoy helping people. If you find that my work is helpful, please just share it with a friend. I'm definitely looking to just share this work with more people. this baby is gonna be out in maybe 3 weeks, maybe less. Feels like she's ready. And I'll, of course, be taking a little bit of time, but I'm definitely excited about continuing this work. Helping people to meet their goals. I love it. I love seeing my clients like week to week, like, wow, I didn't know like I could feel this much better after every call. It even amazes me how much just having someone in your corner, like coaching, it's so different than like therapy. It's like therapies are like, oh, just like going into it. Coaching is really about like, what are the steps that we can do to move forward? Like, what am I missing? And how just talking to someone can help you figure out like what you're missing. Like, I'm not even telling you. You're talking and you're suddenly like, oh, I get it. I get how I can help myself. And that's what it's all about. It's never about being dependent on another person or reading another book or another webinar. It's really about learning how to help yourself. And that's something you can always have with yourself. So I hope I can empower you to do that. I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Kat, saying she had Bliss Books and Soul Fast. Great, starting your journey this evening with meditation. That's how it all starts, getting past those, if you want to get really past those societal ideas, the good way is to meditate on what you really want, because it's a lot clearer when you go into the subconscious. That's why the meditation is so important. So thank you. I hope to see you at Soul Fest this year, July 13th, and at all the amazing things that will be coming up in the next months. Please keep in touch. Tell a friend to grab a Bliss book and do it together. They're also meant to be done in circles. You can motivate each other and talk about how your personal dreams and goals fit into a better community and society. It's not just about, just getting more money and getting thinner and getting more power. It's all about serving each other, serving our families. You can talk about this stuff with your family, and I love you all. Be the 20%. Keep it going. February 1st, new month, new day. And feel free to reach out. I'll give you my email. You can email me anytime. Questions, concerns, anything. Goodbye.